today I want to show you a different prayer in the Bible. A different prayer. Manny showed us a little bit of a prayer last week, and today I wanted to show you a different prayer. This prayer was by a woman, and her name was Hannah. And Hannah, in the book of 1 Samuel, flip over there in your Bible, you're going to need to get there. 1 Samuel chapter 2, we're going to look at chapter 1 and chapter 2. 1 Samuel chapter 1, chapter 2. We're going to read the story a little bit about Hannah and what Hannah prayed. And what an amazing woman this woman is, and her understanding and things that she went through. Life's not perfect for anybody. I guarantee that. But let me tell you, she has some things that all of us can learn. And I was like, wow, pretty cool. Let's take a look at it. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. It's up on the screen. You can read it with me. I prefer you read it in your Bible, okay? Here we go. Hannah prayed and said, "My heart rejoices in the Lord." Say that with me. Rejoices in the Lord. Okay, do it with a smile. Do it with some gladness. Ready? Rejoicing. Okay? My heart, what? Rejoices with the Lord. In the Lord rejoices. And in the Lord my horn is lifted high. My mouth boasts over my enemies. For I what? Delight in your deliverance. God, I delight in you. Don't you delight in him? Don't you love him? Don't you love the fact that God guides, leads, directs everything in your life? And God says, I do that for you. And she rejoices in the Lord. Then it goes on, it says, you know what? God, there's no one like you. There's no one holy like the Lord. Not man, not woman, not child, not angels, no one. No one is holy like the Lord. Holy is the Lord, like the Lord. There is no one beside you. There is no rock like our God. Say it with me. No rock like our God. One more time. No rock like our God. No rock. No rock. There's nobody like him. Nobody like God. No one. He's our rock. You can depend on him. Stand on him. He'll deliver you every time. God's our rock. God's our rock. And Hannah, she knew that. She understood that. And now, I want to kind of take you through a little bit about Hannah. I don't know what you know about Hannah. A few years ago, I talked about her a little bit on, I'm not sure when I did it, but I wanted to kind of come back to Hannah and this time maybe take it just a slightly different way, kind of a slightly different idea. One of the things that you learn from Hannah is a new family, a new life, new hopes, new joys. That's the sermon series that we're going into. Take a look at the slide. Oh, I forgot that part. I hadn't gotten there yet. Sorry. Okay, we'll come back to that. Show them the next slide. There we go. We're doing a new sermon series called New Family, New Hope, New Life. All right, everybody take your lips and pucker them up like that. I cracked up when I saw that picture. I was like, man, I got to use that one. I got to use that one. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about new family, new hope, and new life. And new life. Now, let's back up a slide. What you're going to see in chapter 1 and chapter 2 with Hannah, you're going to see this main idea. When you honor God, he will honor you. Say that with me. When you honor God, he will honor you. Amen? Some of you, I'm not sure if you believe that one. Hang on. If you honor God, God will honor you. You dishonor him, he'll dishonor you. But if you honor him, he'll honor you. That's an amazing truth. It's an amazing truth that Hannah, you're going to see a contrast between Hannah and Eli, a contrast between her family and Eli's family. You're going to see a contrast between these two that you come to understand when you put God first in your life, when you honor God with your decisions, when you honor God with who He is and what He does, God will honor you. You know, there's coming a day where we're going to stand in heaven. And when we stand there in heaven, those who honored me, what? Jesus is going to honor you before my Father who is in heaven. Jesus says, when you honor me, I'll honor you. I love that about Him. When you honor me, I'll honor you. Well, like I said, now go to the next slide, if you will. As we start this sermon series, as we start today, Mother's Day and all, new family, new hope, new life. You know what? Who doesn't want a great family? I think everybody does. Who else wants a great family? Who here, raise a hand, who here wants a great family? You want a great family? I want a great family. How many here want to have a great life? Want to have a great life? I do. I don't know about you, I do. How many of you want a great hope? Great hope. I do. How about you? You know, who else wants that? We want a great life. We want a great hope. We want hope for our family. We want hope for me. We want hope for who our marriage is. We want hope for our life. We want hope for our extended family. We want hope in terms of our future, what's going to take place in the days ahead. We all want new hope. We all do. We're going to take a look at that. And I figure, you know, all of us, who else wants that? Well, we all do. And that's why over the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about some of that. So I hope you stick with me over the next few weeks, and we're going to kind of explore that and what that looks like. But for today, how do you have a new family, a new hope, a new life? How do you do that? How do you do that? Well, we're going to look at the life of Hannah and her husband, her kids, and then also for Eli and his kids. How do you do that? One of the things that you notice first about Hannah, Hannah, take a look at it up on the slide. She had a right relationship with her husband. All right, let me help you with this. Put the kids aside. Put your parents aside. Put your extended family aside. At some point, it was you and your husband. You and your darling bride. The two of you stood before God and everyone and said, I do. And out of that, you started a family. What does it look like to have a right relationship with your husband? You know, some of the things that you're going to learn today, I think, are going to be through a woman's eyes. Now, admittedly, I'm a guy, okay? So some things I may understand, some things I may not. Afterwards, when we have lunch together, clue me in. Say, hey, Todd, you know what? You could have went further with this, or this would help, or, you know. Sometimes guys don't always see things how women see things. And in the same way, women don't always see things how a man sees it. And sometimes there's difference between a man and a woman, we call that what? Conversation. A man is different than a woman, and it's the converse. You're talking to each other, and you two may see things completely different from each other. Anybody in here ever have a disagreement with your spouse? Ever had an argument with your spouse? Yeah, we've done that. How to have a right relationship with your spouse. Let's take a look at 1 Samuel chapter 1. Let me get there. 1 Samuel chapter 1. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, Zuphite, from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuphah, an Ephraimite. He had two wives. One was called Hannah, and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were priests before the Lord. When the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of meat to his wife Phinehas and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and she wouldn't eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you so downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" Once, when they finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up, and the priest was sitting on his chair at the doorpost of the Lord's house. In deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. We're going to stop that for a moment. Here's Hannah. Her life was not perfect. Please don't hear that. Everybody in here, your life may not be perfect. I don't know if there's anybody that has a perfect marriage. I don't know of anybody that has, you wake up one morning and you go, my husband is perfect. You ever do that? I don't think so. Hannah, she lived at a desperate time. You got to understand something about Hannah. Hannah lived at a time where Israel was absolutely in disarray. Their enemy was called the Philistines. You remember stories a long time ago about David and Goliath and the Philistines and all that, right? That's to come. The Philistines are in Israel and they're attacking. The Philistines are keeping the Israelites destitute and poor. It's kind of like having an invading army come into your country and stealing everything that you've got and killing all the people that you've got and taking your wives and taking your daughters. Think of a couple places in our world right now on other continents where that's taking place right now. That's the same kind of condition that Hannah lived in. Number two, the priesthood was absolutely decimated. Eli had 2 sons. Now, Eli was appointed high priest over top of Israel. And as such, being the high priest over top of Israel, his job was to dispense justice and to represent the people to the Lord and the Lord to the people. That's his job. But Eli wasn't paying attention to that. And Eli wasn't paying attention to his role as the leader and governing all the people. Sorry about that. So Eli has two boys. Now these two boys, I would love to use the word they were scallywags, but they weren't scallywags. I would love to call them scoundrels. They weren't scoundrels. They were drop-dead evil. They were bona fide, in the flesh, evil guys. These two men defiled the Lord's house. People would bring their sacrifices and say, please bring this sacrifice to the Lord so that he would accept our sacrifice and that God would be with us. These two guys, they wound up doing what? They wound up decimating and they wound up defiling those sacrifices and doing what shouldn't have been done. And then, to make matters worse, they were sleeping around. They were sleeping. They should have been leading the house of God, but anybody that worked, all the women that worked there at the temple, these two guys are sleeping with. That ever happen at church? That ever happen today? That ever happen to where you hear of pastors sleeping around? Yeah. So not only did these boys, men I should say, not only did these men defile and have contempt towards God, they had contempt towards women, they had contempt towards the people, and if they didn't do what they said, they would take it by force. They were violent men. How'd you like that for your spiritual leader? How'd you like that for your pastor? How'd you like for a pastor to do everything wrong before God, sleep with anybody, God and country, and then turn around and beat you in the process? You want to follow a person like that? I don't think so. God saw what was going on. And the people were so upset that they went to Eli and they said, listen, you need to correct your boys. You know what Eli did? Nothing. Not one thing. He didn't go to them and stop doing that, boys. Knock it off. That's wrong. He didn't even go to God and say, God, you judge them. He didn't even do that. Eli? Nah. Eli got to a place in his life where he couldn't get out of his own way. Things were desperate. You meet up with Hannah. Hannah, she lives with a man who, yes, outwardly, he goes to the temple 3 times a year. He seems very religious. He seems like the kind of guy that, he goes and he sacrifices to the church. And he goes to church once, maybe every 3 months, or every 4 months, or every 5 months. And that seems very religious. It seems very good to do that. But the thing that you learn is, wait a minute, he was a polygamist. You know what happened? He saw Hannah, caught Hannah's eye, she caught his eye, and they said, you know what? Let's get married. And when they got married, Hannah, she couldn't have any children. You know why? You read it. God had closed her womb. But you know what I give Hannah credit for? Hannah always went with her husband to worship. I like that about her. Sometimes you find women far more likely to go to church than men. Sometimes you'll find women that are a whole lot more likely to worship God than maybe men do. Sometimes you find women who will put a priority on their relationship with God. But I was kind of thinking about this. Sometimes it's really hard. It's got to be hard for some of you ladies. It's got to be hard because you're at home. You get up in the morning. You're running around the house. You're doing everything for everybody. You're trying to get the kids out the door, get them to school or whatever, and you're trying to make sure that everything's taken care of at the house. You throw in a couple loads of laundry, boom, you're out the door, and then you go to a job. And a lot of women work now. A lot of women, they don't have the luxury of being at home. And that's hard being at home too. Don't dismiss that. Don't hear that either. Okay, it's hard taking care of your kids. It's hard to have when you have them in diapers. It's hard when you have them young children. And I see some moms, they come in down at Starbucks or they come in over at Publix and they've got on their sweatpants and they've got on their shirt and they got a little bit of drool or something on them, and they're working hard. And sometimes, it's hard, I think. Your husband comes home and he's all happy and bubbly and says, come here, honey, give me a smooch. And then finally the kids are down, they're asleep, and then she passes out on the couch. Tired. Where in that day do you have any time for God? Do you know what women cry out for sometimes? Just a little bit of alone time. Just a little bit of time. Just carve out just a few minutes between me and God. And I think for Hannah, she loved God. She loved her husband. But I don't understand why it says God closed her womb. Don't miss this. Some things that God does, only He can reverse it. Only He can change that. The problems that we encounter may be put there because God put them there. God's doing something that maybe you're not aware of. And yet, here she was, she's going, I trust my husband, but God, I want kids. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I wish we had more. One of the reasons why I hate abortion. Children, the Bible says, are a gift from the Lord. They're a gift. Why would you want to kill a gift? Why would you want to trash a gift from God? I don't get it. But sometimes I think we all need that time where we're connected to God. It's hard to be connected to God when you don't understand why He's doing what He's doing. It's hard to trust Him when you get up in the morning and you go to a job that you don't like. It's hard to trust Him when, God, I feel like I'm so run down I can't even see straight. God, I have the pressure of taking care of my kids and taking care of my parents. Hannah says that she cried and she cried bitterly. One of the hardest things for a husband is when your wife is crying. Sometimes you don't know how to console them. Sometimes you try to fix it. Sometimes you try to just listen. Sometimes you just try to be there. Hannah was upset. And it says that, here's what Hannah did. She worshiped the Lord, and she worshiped by going to the temple 3 times a year. She went with her husband to the temple. Don't miss this. A woman who worships God. God is able to work in that woman's life. She may not understand everything, but let me tell you, God rewards faithfulness to Him. And God says, when you trust me, when you worship me, what? You honor me, I will honor you. She also went to the temple. What did she do? She started praying. I love that about her. Girls, do you ever get a chance to pray? You know how nice that is just to have some time just to pray? And not pray over the meal or pray, just en route to your job or something like that, but just taking a little bit of time and, God, it's been a while since you and I have talked. Men, don't wait to go to God every 3 months or every 4 months. Take a lesson from Hannah. When you come into God's presence, pray. Talk to God. Tell Him what you're thinking. Tell Him what you're feeling. He knows you. You're His son. You're His daughter. And God says, I am what? Able to take care of you. I'm able to meet your needs. She prayed. But you know what else she did? She said, God, if you give me a son, I will present him to you. I like that about Hannah. She had intention to her prayers. Her prayers just didn't ramble. Sometimes we think that God is kind of deaf. Sometimes it feels like it's hitting the brass ceiling. It's hitting the sky and bouncing right back. We wonder sometimes, God, are you listening? Do you hear what I'm praying? And so she goes to the temple, and she's there, and she finally gets to the point, enough is enough is enough. She stands up from the table, and she goes, and she gets next to the temple, and she's standing there, she's pouring out her heart to God. She's praying, and she's going, God, you see my situation. You know what's going on. God, if you don't step in, if you don't do something, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't take this anymore. Instead of getting mad at her husband, he was a polygamist. She couldn't have kids, so you know what he did? He goes out and gets another wife. And he says, you know what? I love her, but she's going to give me kids. What kind of man does that? If you think for 1 minute that God condones polygamy, you're wrong. Lynette and I used to live out in Arizona. And up in the top part of Arizona, Page, Arizona, it was all Mormon territory. And they had polygamy everywhere. And you could always tell the generations of those that engaged in polygamy just because of what happened to their looks. They practiced polygamy. The Bible never condoned polygamy. It never did. Hannah can't have kids. So what does he do? He goes and has kids with another woman. Before you throw rocks at him, Abraham did the same thing. Abraham's wife couldn't have kids either. What does he do? He sleeps with Hagar, has a kid through her. You know what? She goes to God and she says, God, if you give me a child, I will see to it that he is yours. promise of a mom, the promise of a woman that took risk. Here's a woman that she's risking it with God. And she's being straight up with him. God, if you do this for me, I will do this for you. Trust me, if you make a vow to God, you better keep it. If you say, God, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to give that, or I'm going to give this tithe or that offering, you better keep that you better keep that vow. And that's what she did. That's what else I love about her. When she said something, she meant it, and she did it. She was a woman who you could trust. She was a woman who, when she said yes, it meant yes. When she said no, it meant no. You know, a husband, for all of his flaws, turn around, wife and second wife and all that, he did love her. He did love her. And I like that because when your husband loves you, your life can be a mess. Relationships can be fractured. There's all kinds of problems swirling around you. But when you have one man in your life, one woman in your life that you trust and that you love, you can face the day. In fact, that's one of the things that they know about men when it comes to issues of divorce. When it comes to issues of divorce, the number one reason why men get divorced, you ready? Because their wives don't love them. They love what they get. They love what they want. They love the fulfillment of whatever that dream is. But so many men go, God, she doesn't love me. You know what happens with women? Same thing. A woman, why didn't he love me? What did I do that was so wrong that made it to where he couldn't love me? Hannah cried, and she cried bitterly over that. She pours out her heart to God. She went with her husband. She prayed. But what I love about Hannah is that when God answered her prayer, she turned it into praise. And she said, God, this is who you are. This is what you've done. This is how you've helped me in my life. I would encourage you to read 1 Samuel chapter 2. Her prayer is amazing. She said, God, you're a rock. There's nobody like you. You're able to help me. You're able to deliver me. You're my stronghold. God, even when I didn't see what you were doing and didn't understand, God, you still had a plan. And boy, did God have a plan. God was going to use her son to change the entire course of a nation, to change the entire course of people, to change the course of her family. The other wife, she goes by the wayside. You don't really hear of her anymore, and you never hear about her kids. But Samuel became the man of God that God chose to lead the nation of Israel. At the time of Judges, he brought justice. He was the last of the judges. He was a prophet. He was a priest, all the way from the time that he was a little boy. You know, and that's maybe the next thing that I love about Hannah. See the next part? It says she has a right relationship with her husband, but next part, here it is. She had a right relationship with God. She worshiped. She prayed. She said, God, I'm making a vow to you. God, I'm going to fulfill that vow. And she brought her little boy to Eli. And he was raised in the temple. And he served the Lord all the days of his life. Amazing story. I encourage you to read that story. All right? Now, let's go back to God here for a moment. Did any of this surprise God? Did God know what was going on in Hannah's life? Did God know what was going on in Elkanah's life, in his relationship to his wife? Did God see all that? Yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely he did. Did God raise up a leader for the nation of Israel? Not in a way that anybody expected. Here was a woman that couldn't have kids, and miracle of miracle, just like the miracle of Christ. He raises up Samuel, a miracle child, and God used Samuel in a way that blessed everyone. That's the kind of guys we need today. But I find it kind of interesting. Samuel, here's a little boy. The moment she weaned him, in fact, let's go to the next slide. The next slide. Have a right relationship with your family, with your kids. Here's what I love about Hannah. She put a priority on her children. You know, oftentimes we talk about, sometimes women get caught because they're supposed to put a priority on their husband. They're supposed to put a priority on their job. They're supposed to put a priority on going to church. They're supposed to put a priority on serving in the church. And you got all these things that you got to do. You know what she did? She took care of her child. At the end of the day, a husband wants his wife to take care of his family. That's what he wants. You know what she did? She said, honey, I'm not going to go to worship with you this year. I'm not going to go to these sacrifices with you. I'm not going to travel with you until the little boy is weaned. She put a priority on her son. She knew what that little boy was going to need. And Hannah, even at the cost of her own travel, her own time, her own worship, she was with her son and wanted to make sure that he was taken care of and that his needs were met. Ladies, sometimes men get upset because you don't always go with them. Men love to have their wives travel in their truck or their car. Hey, let's go to the beach. Or, hey, will you go with me down to Walmart? Or, hey, will you come with me over to, who knows where? You know what? Sometimes women, they stay home because not only is home comfortable, but home is where their family is, where the kids are, or where they might just get a little modicum of rest. And maybe we might do well to allow our sisters to be able to say, God, I'm going to follow you, but I'm following you by taking care of my kids. God, you placed my kids in my life, my grandkids in my life. And so, God, I need to take care of them. Now, Hannah didn't disregard her relationship with God. No. But she took her responsibility seriously about raising Samuel. But there came a day where Samuel was raised. He was weaned. And Hannah did something extraordinary. She took her son to the synagogue, to Eli, and presented him to the Lord and left him there. How could a mom do that? How could a mom walk away from their child? She didn't walk away. She didn't walk away. She knew exactly where he was. And she was trusting God to take care of her son. God provided him. And you know what she did? Every single time the worship came, she would always make clothing for him. She would do things for him. She'd bake little cakes and favorite things, and she'd take them to him. That's her baby. And all the days of his life, he could always count on his mom showing up at least 3 times a year. Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom. He could count on his mom in ways that I can only begin to imagine. So, ladies, men, Hannah teaches us a couple of things. Number 1, have a right relationship with each other as husband and wife. Put a priority, love, faithfulness, trust, honesty. Put those things into your relationship. Work hard at those things. Number 2, don't be cheating on your wife. Don't be cheating on your husband. Number 3, be in right relationship with God. I maintain that's the first part. I know you have a husband, but a husband is only 30, 40, 50 years. God is going to be with you for eternity. Be in right relationship with him. Let me show you one more thing. When you have a godly husband, it will make for a godly wife. When you have a godly husband, it will make for a godly family. You see, the two are one. And before God, what? We have a family. Put God first. Put God first in your life. Ladies, sometime today, I hope you get a nap. I hope you get some encouragement. Maybe rub their feet or something. Hope you get a good meal here in a minute or two. Eat something good, healthy. That lasagna and that salad that's in there, it's calling me, and that's going to be nice and healthy. It's going to be good. It's going to be pretty. It's going to be relaxing. You don't have to rush and be in a 2-hour wait line trying to get into Olive Garden. So come and join us for that. But take some time between you and the Lord today. Second, take some time and tell your husband that you love him. Let him know that you care about him. And husbands, do the same for your wife. Tell him you love him, care about him. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this dear, sweet woman. Father, someday we're going to meet Hannah. What an extraordinary example of faith. Father, you put the family in place. Father, here's a situation, I don't get it, between her and her husband and having multiple wives and all that, Father. That's wrong on so many levels. But God, even in the things that we do wrong, I find it amazing that you still raise up your men, your women, who cling to you, who do what is right, who honor you. And God, you honor them. And so, Father, that's what you did with Samuel. He honored you all the days of his life. And so you honored him. Father, I pray too that I would honor you all the days of my life, so that someday when I stand in your presence, that Father, your Son would say, well done, good and faithful servant. Father, I pray that we would honor you in everything that we do, everything that we say. In your holy and precious name.